All right, I have 7 o'clock. We will call the Whittier Township Town Board meeting to order for August 19th, 2024. First item on the agenda is the agenda. Patrick, any changes?
No changes to the agenda from staff, Mr. Chair.
Board have anything?
Nothing to add.
No changes.
Hearing none, I need a motion to approve.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second?
Motion made second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Second item is approval of payment of bills. Steve, you sign up?
I signed off. Move to approve payment of the bills.
No second?
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, then I have item 4 is approval of minutes of August 5th, 2024.
Mr. Chair, I know Supervisor Redessel had some comments on the minutes. I will as well. I will defer to him first.
Yeah, under the open time, resident Dick Sands is Dick Sand, hold the S.
Oh,
Just that simple.
That was it?
That was it. There was another one, but I can't find it now. It was just an extra A in a sentence, but
Okay.
nothing critical.
Staff would recommend the following changes to page 6 of the minutes, 9 of your packet, third paragraph down, for the motion that Supervisor Redessel made for that discussion. I do recall requesting that these not be included in the resolution, but I believe our minute taker feels more comfortable just writing them down as they are, and then we can change them. So here's what I have. Redessel made the motion to direct staff to work with the contractor to modify this section of the plans to retain the island as is due to unique circumstances where the property owner, designer appeared unaware of the completed plans. I would like that stricken from the minutes unless anybody has an objection. And then further down, and the property owner has stated that they will replant this island subject to town input on the types of trees, noting that this is a unique situation of communication breakdown. I also addressed that and requested that that not be in there as well. I would put that out there for your consideration. And the reason for the communication breakdown, as I believe I stated at the meeting, was I think that implication puts an undue burden on staff to be almost literally knocking on every door in a neighborhood for a road project. And I believe, staff believes that the communication for this project in particular was following our process and good.
Mr. Chair, I'll make one comment to follow up on that. The very last part of that sentence says that of the town attorney noted that the unaware is not completely true since the board had followed the process of street improvement projects. So to say it's unaware up above is meaningless when it's very clear that that unaware is not a true term.
Yes, correct.
So I agree from my perspective.
all right, that all you got, Patrick?
This is, yep.
Board have anything else?
No.
Hearing none, I need a motion to amend the minutes from August 5th.
I'll move to amend the minutes as it relates to page 6, as noted tonight, taking out the part of unaware of the completed plans.
And communication
And
breakdown.
communication, yes.
Thanks.
I will second that.
All right, motion made second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. Item 5 is a consent agenda. There's 5 of them. If the board's okay with these, we can move them on, or do you want to pull any of them?
Were we looking at a planning commission appointment too?
Yes. Oh, you know what? That was an addition under consent. We have a couple of applicants who are interested in filling the planning commission seat that's been open. That will be addressed at the planning commission meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
They will go over the 2 applicants, at which point they will make a recommendation to this board.
So we're pulling
Excellent.
consent agenda.
We're going to
5B.
pull that one. Yeah.
That was not on one of the 2 packets we received.
Yeah. Our deputy clerk sent out a revised one that does not have that on there.
Correct.
Yep.
That's what this one reflects here too. So
Okay.
the 5 items on here, are you looking for a motion yet, or?
Correct.
I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda as proposed.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, motion made second. All in favor?
Aye.
So we're not going to deal with that planning commission?
Thank you, board.
Okay.
All right, item 6A, this is old business. This is the attorney update for the fire service contract for the city of White Bear Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, make clear the reason this is being done in open session is White Bear Lake has indicated or stated that there is not a litigation planned on this, therefore it can be discussed in open session.
There is not, did you say?
That's what they said.
There is not.
Not.
Thank you.
This is a contract dispute between the city and the township. It's nothing illegal about the contract, it's simply a contract dispute. And reviewing the contract, the town has been living up to its obligations under the contract. The issue is whether or not the city has the right to charge the town a portion of the interest accruing from the bonds that they issued to build the new fire hall or public safety building. And I would point out, nowhere in the fire agreement does that appear. The town's obligations all appear in paragraph 2A of the fire services agreement. And the first one is projected annual cost of the fire services as budgeted by White Bear Lake. Well, I reviewed the White Bear Lake budgets for 23 and 24. And in each case, if you take their fire budget of $1,521,176 for 2023, the town share at 28.41% is $432,166. You were charged $448,109, and the reason for that difference is the fact that there were adjustments made. So it's perfect. It's well within the contract terms. And in 2024, the budget was $1,687,157. 28.4% of that is $479,321. The town was charged $540,075, and again, after adjustments, that is correct. So basically, what I'm saying is that the amount being charged is exactly according to their budget, which is exactly what the contract calls for, the fire budget. Now, interest appears in a separate portion of the budget. That appears under debt service. Again, a completely separate part of the budget. And nothing in this contract, or the contract with the city, calls for us to be paying interest or anything under the debt servicing. Again, the city drew up this contract. We accepted their contract. If they wanted to charge us interest, they should have said so. They didn't. And if there's any question about the terms of the contract runs through January 1st of 2028. And if either side wants to terminate the contract, they have to provide 2 years' notice. At this point in time, no one's provided any notice. The city has not provided notice to the township, nor the township to the city. So the contract is in place until at least December 31st of 2027, actually.
Yeah, 31st. Yep.
So, and one other thing too, the city never consulted the town on how much it was going to spend to acquire equipment or build buildings. They simply did it and build, and the town pays its share of the cost through depreciation. So in my opinion, the town has no obligation to pay interest, and that the town is fully complying with the terms of its contract.
So as of now, we are still paying the obligated part of the contract.
Yes.
Current,
For services.
correct.
In talking with Mr. Tom Kelly, the finance director of the township, the only issue has been depreciation. That's because the city has not provided the township with the depreciation calculations. And once those are provided, the town will pay its share of the depreciation as per the agreement.
Now, this is fire and ambulance, correct?
Fire and ambulance, yes.
Steve, comments?
Well, just for conversation purposes, the money that they think we are, how much is in dispute? I mean, what is the amount?
Over
$200,000.
roughly, well, it's 182,000 a year for the next 20 years.
182,000 for the next, how many years?
20.
20 years.
Almost
life
$4
of the
million.
bonds.
Okay.
And again, the town is compensating the city for the cost of acquiring both equipment and buildings through depreciation. As they depreciate the equipment, we pay our share of it.
I would also say to anybody who's watching tonight is that these conversations are ongoing between the township and the city.
Tom, anything?
So what's our action on this at this point? Just an update?
Just an
Very
update,
good
that's-
update, by the way. Thank you very much.
Are there other meetings scheduled or
No.
not yet?
No.
Okay.
Did they get hit by interest rate increases? Is that part of this, or is it?
According to Tom Kelly, their bonds were at a very, very reasonable rate. I think they were 2%, weren't they? I could be wrong,
Roughly.
but yeah, their bonds are very favorable.
Well, Patrick, myself, Tom Kelly, and Chad all met, last
Wednesday.
Wednesday with their mayor, their city administrator, their attorney, their finance officer, and the fire marshal.
Correct.
So we've started the discussions. Right now, we're still talking.
Our attorney has a different opinion than theirs.
From my perspective as a board member, I think you have a good team to look at this. And if there are ongoing meetings, I feel very comfortable that you keep the same team together to continue hammering this out with the board chair and staff and Chad.
Okay.
So I'd move that if we need to pass that.
Not looking for any action tonight.
Okay,
Just
thanks.
Motion to
FYI.
continue or anything? Just FYI. Sounds good.
Thanks,
Right.
folks.
Okay, moving on. Item 7, we have a public hearing. We have none. So item 8 is new business. This is the 2023 Mallard Ponds improvements. Larry, you going to bring us up to speed on this? Or Patrick, you want to do a little?
Okay. So this is a continuation from our conversation that we had at the last township board meeting. We did have a resident approach the board about making some exceptions to the plan that the board had approved back in the winter for road construction through these neighborhoods. The board did decide to go along with the requests of the resident and keep one island in place against the project plan. And we are here because we were getting additional input from residents about this now. Staff's position is still, we didn't agree necessarily with the board that we make the change to the plan to accommodate the resident at the last meeting. However, we'll proceed with it. We would just like to reiterate our position that our plan should remain the same from this point out. But I would defer to Larry about how we're going to go forward on this one. And I'll have some additional comments as he moves along.
Yeah, and I can give a little bit of background for the public here. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I can pull up a map if you'd like to see this.
Why don't you?
Yeah, great.
Okay. So this is the map showing kind of the Mallard Ponds project area. We call it all the Mallard Ponds project, but we know there's several different developments that were done with this project originally. So this is the project area. The project construction has started on the west side, and all the curbing on the west side is now complete, and they're doing reclamation today on that west side, and they're swiftly moving toward this east side. We have 3 entrances to this neighborhood, including one here at Mallard's Boulevard, Mallard's Drive, and Red Pine. And there's median islands on all 3 of those areas. I just want to kind of describe a little bit about our process and remind you of the process. But we sent out questionnaires to the public to start this process. And then we studied the project, and then we also had 3 neighborhood meetings and 1 public hearing where the public got to approach the board on the project. So it went through all that process, and then the project was approved, I think it was April, by the board. And kind of through that process, the questionnaire had several comments about removal of these islands. And then we also heard from the public at the neighborhood meetings about the removal of these islands. And so just kind of give you a little bit of background. I can show a little more detail on these islands. So this is red pine. This island is already, so as a part of the design, all these islands were removed as a part of the design that was approved in April. This one on red pine is already removed. The curb is already installed. And, as I mentioned, they were reclaiming the pavement today, and they'll move toward paving that area. These other two are not removed yet, although some of the vegetation has been removed in these in preparation of the curb removal. So these are kind of the look of those islands into the development. So that's just a little bit of background about our process and kind of how we got here. And I could turn it over to Dale on any maintenance.
Staff maintains the islands currently, once a year. The biggest challenge is operationally in winter months. There's been a lot of, and I think some residents will attest to it, they've hit some of the rock that's in the islands, dragged down the street, and the alignment isn't conducive to, winter maintenance operations. So I think I've shared that with staff, with the board previously. That's, our perspective on things. And there was feedback from the residents that at some of the meetings that they, like to see them removed. And from our perspective, we would agree with them, but that doesn't. So there's my overview of the islands from an operational standpoint.
Larry, how many units are in there? Over 100, isn't it?
Yeah, there's over 100, but I couldn't give you a number.
Okay, and so when you sent out the questionnaire, any idea what percentage was in favor or against taking those islands?
We didn't ask a question about the islands. It was just offered as the general comments.
Okay.
But no objections, one way or the other? To keeping up, you said it was in a comment.
The
Was
question
never asked,
wasn't-
but
Well,
not even.
you'll get a chance.
Yeah, but no comments pro or con.
Yeah, there were three
General
comments.
Three comments.
That we did receive through the questionnaire in addition to whatever it is we got at our meeting, so.
And then how do those entrances with the islands compare for size? For, say, if we did the project today, would it basically meet the guidelines? Are they wide enough, or would it take more right away to make them work?
There's not really guidance on these.
Okay, well, I'm just curious because obviously they take up space.
Yeah.
Whether they have enough entrance and exit space when you come in and out of the project.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, this one is a bit awkward to me. You curve into Portland. There's a curve on Portland, and then there's navigating in and out at this entrance. I would suggest if they were to be kept, that this island be adjusted and made smaller. This one is a little bit more in alignment with the street across the way, and is not as awkward, I would say.
Yeah, well, I do remember when we were first going over these plans that a safety issue was brought up if there was sightline clearance or turning radius clearance. I don't remember whatever came of that. So.
There was maintenance of the island itself was a concern as well.
Right. Steve, any questions of Larry?
When that island right there, that's a much larger island? Because that entrance is much wider than the one that you said
I
too narrow?
think the other one is just as
Is it just
large.
as wide?
It's on, there's a curve
But it's
into it.
on
There's
a curve.
There's some curves that need to be navigated. This one was a lot smaller on Red Pine.
Yeah, I was out there today and looked at all three of them, so I know that one's gone.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Tom?
I'm arriving to the party late here because this was a project that was approved before I was on the board, but I was around when this was designed. So
Wow, you're old.
I know it. Careful, there might be some residents who've been out there as long as, who bought originally. So I know the one on Red Pine was just for a sign. There wasn't much landscaping there. It was just rock. And then if you look at the Portland Avenue there, that one coming off of Mallard Ponds, is that one there? Now, Ramsey County has plans to straighten that curve out someday, and you can kind of see where that goes if you look at the picture, where the green vegetation changes to grass right there. All that'll be removed someday, and that curve will be taken out. I have no idea where that is on the county's project list, and I bet really isn't anywhere at this point, because that was just cleaning this road up a little bit when the subdivision was approved. So.
Part of the trail system or not? Didn't have any effect of it?
No comment or no discussion on the trail, really. It's just that's Kirby there. And so when the property was subdivided, the county requested the town take this land for additional right-of-way, so that's how it should show up there. So the bottom line is that island would be removed anyway when the road straightened out or changed or whatever, so.
That I got?
I guess so. Those are my only. Oh, if we go further south there, the one that's right across from Short Street, I recall some discussion there. When that was an existing house there just to the north of that island that was retained as part of the subdivision, and the driveway came off of this intersection. So as I recall, some of the discussion was we should break up, we're going to change that from a driveway to a full-fledged road, and it's right at the end of a long strip on a county state aid highway. So somebody who's not aware of the stop sign there or whatever, it would look like a straight shot. With that island there, it shows a little bit of a breakup in that straight shot. But
Because now there has been some discussion of making that a four-way, which I think we're talking to the county already on that.
yes. So that's just a little history as I recall on that there. They're just design features.
All right, any other questions of the board? Hearing none. If you have any comments on this, I need for you to come up, state your name and address for the record.
Hi there, Tom Merrill, 5979 Mallard Ponds Drive. I think I submitted a letter, which most everybody has read, which I think kind of says most of what I had to say. Just a couple of quick comments in terms of, whether that is awkward or whatever to come in. I don't think it is awkward to come in there. It is, as someone said, it is on a curve there, and as someone else mentioned, yes, there are plans at some point to change that road to straighten it out. If that ever come to fruition, it may or may not come to fruition. My understanding from the original plans I'd seen quite a while ago, way back when Kent Jefferson was building the neighborhood, was that change would not cut into where the island is. But again, I think that's kind of a moot point. Other questions? Someone mentioned about the rock or whatever, being a plow issue or whatever. The real issue I see with that island in terms of why it's an eyesore is it's mounded way up, and they put a ton of gravel on it. The gravel falls off. If a kid walks on it, it falls off. The main thing, my main concern with it is that it's an eyesore. And I think there was another resident who submitted a note as well, Jeremy Laska. I know him, he's a good friend of mine. And I wish he would have talked to me about it, but he was bashful or something, and he did it late at night. So his concern, if you read through his letter, is that it's an eyesore. He talked about a lot of other things that were in terms of safety or whatever else. His main concern is eyesore, and that's my main concern originally when I brought this up was, and I was probably one of the people that commented at the meeting, I'm not sure if I commented on the survey, but that it needed work, and basically what they had done when they selected the plants is Kent Jefferson was not an arborist by any means. It's a great builder and everything else, but he just put spirea in there, and I don't know what the pines were, but they probably were not appropriate for that area. So my hope initially when we talked about it was that we can improve the look of it, make it actually an asset to the neighborhood as opposed to something that looks kind of not good, let's put it that way, when you come in. And then, since then, I had sent out a note to the neighbors, got a lot of feedback from a lot of people in terms of the safety issue of it. I think it's a safety issue as well. There's a speeding issue through that neighborhood in general. And as you'd mentioned originally, there were some plans before the neighborhood was finalized. I was one of the first guys to buy in there with Canton. New Canton actually can't live next to me there for a couple of years there. So originally that plan was that was supposed to be a cul-de-sac. And then there was some objection by somebody into what it ended up to be. So so I guess I would say, our hope, and sounds like the hope of most of the rest of the folks that responded to, my email, and that was, was that, and including Jeremy, was that we can improve the look of it. And Jeremy's, he keeps the neatest yard in the neighborhood. So there's not any gravel out of place in his gardens. And I don't like the gravel coming out of there. I think if we could replant it with something, and I'm not an arborist or anything, but I mean, I'm thinking something like car forest or grasses, or, I would defer to whoever, landscape architects, to what would be the appropriate thing to put in there. But I did get a lot of feedback. I actually just got an email from the people that live right on the very corner there, and they have, a number of young kids, and they say they are very concerned about the safety issue there. And and her comment was, people come whipping around, Portland Avenue, they're pretty good. We get a lot of motorcyclists that are driving to Stillwater on the weekend. They're going to be coming around there pretty good. Or if somebody's turning, but mainly if somebody's turning on to Mallard Ponds, you're coming along. I mean, that's a good high-speed road. To come along there, you're just going to go in there. Whereas if you come into that island, it forces you to slow down. You're probably forced down to 10 miles an hour. So, and yes, and somebody mentioned, well, you can always speed up later. Yeah, but by the time they get through that first block, which is where all the kids are, there's 10 kids within the first, few houses there. So right on the end. So.
Is that 40 miles an hour there?
Ours is it depends which direction you're going. If you're
I know it changes there someplace.
if you're going towards Highway 61, it's 50 miles an hour. If you're coming towards us, I believe it's 40 miles an hour. So it's people, and of course people take 10 miles an hour. So any other comments here? In terms of clearing, in terms of plowing, I would defer to Dale on that, but we've never had any issues with that not being plowed well. I think you plow not towards the island, but towards the edge of the road. So that seems to be an issue. I mean, certainly it's maybe a little challenge. I don't know. I can't drive a plow, so I wouldn't comment on that. Yeah, and I guess the other issue is, just in terms of having been approved or whatever else, I don't know if I missed something or whatever, or when we didn't look at it in terms of seeing the islands were removed. That came as a shock to me when I happened to talk to Sarah, and I said, what kind of plants are you going to put in there? And she went, well, plants, they're all coming out. And I went, what? You got to be kidding me. So it took us aback, and some of the other people that commented back said they had no idea the island was coming out. So, and again, I don't know that's, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, or, I don't know, that's going to always be all of our faults. I'm human too, so. I don't know if there's any other, did I miss anything?
Anyone have a question?
Any questions for me?
Steve?
Yeah, I guess.
Not of him, no.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing was, in terms of the islands, we probably need to be real clear about the islands in the neighborhood to the west of us. We call that the White Bear Ponds thing. That's what the sign used to say. I think Tom commented, really that was an island about this wide with a sign on it that said White Bear Ponds, and maybe somebody had some plants. Yeah, so that's not really an island. That was a sign, and nobody wanted to maintain it. So if that comes out, I don't think that's going to break anybody's heart there. It is out, so I don't think anybody cared about that. But the other islands made a difference, and I think it. That's where the discussion was. Yeah, and I think that's where the discussion was, and maybe people were confused, or if somebody said that, I went, well, that's not what they're talking about. So I think that's addressed. I don't know if anybody has questions of me or whoever.
No,
I guess the other thing too, I want to comment. I think I remember at I think it was the approval meeting, Ed was asking a lot of questions about that, and it very much seemed to me that, hey, you want to do what the folks want, and I think this is kind of what the feeling I got is that's what folks want. They wanted to to look better. Jeremy said eyesore, and I think he named it. So we want it to look better, but we still want to keep it there.
All right, thanks, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to this?
Right here for this?
All right, hearing none. Board, have any other questions of Larry?
So, I mean, we're to a point where it has to be decided there's no more neighbor input on this. It's got to be now or never, because the project's pretty well in hand, correct?
Yes, as I mentioned, they are completed with the curb removal and replacement on the west side, and they are moving swiftly over to the east side. To be honest, having these conversations now are problematic. It causes confusion, and with our staff and the contractor. But they're moving to this area this week to start removing curb. So and replace that.
Chad, do you have any input on this?
Not really. I mean, other than the fact that the statute is pretty clear, the procedures are supposed to follow when it comes to road improvements and assessments, and they're very rigorous, and they were followed to a T in this situation. And part of that is engineering, disclosing what the plans are, and that's what happened here. So, I mean, I'm not an engineer, but all I can say from the process, it was proper. It was followed closely. In fact, probably in a lot of ways, the town goes overboard in their following in the details of how they proceed on these projects and these assessments.
Well,
When I say overboard, I mean they go farther than a lot of other municipalities do.
I mean, I know you're talking about, what, 3 neighborhood meetings plus the survey that was sent out. Patrick, anything to add?
No, I think we've made our position pretty clear.
You got to come back up.
Just to the point about process and everything, I would say everyone I talked to was not aware that the islands were coming out. So, even if the process was rigorous and followed properly, for some reason, all of us dummies didn't get it. And I'm not a complete fool, So, I can give all kinds of suggestions for future. I mean, I would say, really like a nice, not everybody can come out on a Monday night. I mean, like you said, there's 100 people in the neighborhood and there's not anybody here. I showed up for meetings and, I got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I normally don't, go to 9 o'clock meetings. So, so I mean, I would say, it'd be nice if there was an executive summary that came out here. Here's what we're doing. The islands are coming out. I didn't see anything anywhere that said that. So, whether, and I guess my view of government is, you try to serve the people. If you want to follow the letter of the law might be different than the spirit of the law. So that's my thoughts.
All right, Larry, during these public meetings, the neighborhood meetings, are the plans laid out? The road plan?
The last neighborhood meeting, yes. And then at the public hearing,
We go through the plans then.
oh no, that was after the public hearing. We have one more neighborhood meeting where the plans are prepared or mostly prepared. They're at a 60% stage.
All right, any other questions from the board to staff?
No.
What is the process if we were to say, keep the islands? It's not too late, but it messes up the plans, changes costs.
Do we run it?
Has there been any discussion that the contractor that might be a possibility, or they have no idea from this perspective?
Yeah, they've been talking to the contractor to hold off on those until we sort this out.
Yeah, okay, so we're still in the sorting.
In terms of the cost, we would look at not removing the island, so there would be cost savings. We wouldn't add cost other than the cost that we incurred to remove the trees already. That's already completed.
Chad, on a process level though, does this go back to a public hearing?
No, it wouldn't go back to a public hearing.
Change order at this point, right?
Yes. It's not a material change.
Yeah.
Though I got to tell you, I'm a little bit uncomfortable from the standpoint that we followed the statute. We followed the statute rigorously, and the statute's designed. Actually, you're mandated to follow it. I really have I can't say I'm okay. If you want to make the change, I wouldn't have a problem as a town attorney. But on the other hand, I am uncomfortable when we start changing things midstream after they're originally adopted.
Well, this will come back to get us because we start second guessing our projects and altering them on the, almost to the point where we're doing them, is now we're gonna be suspect to everything we do, every road project now. We're gonna have to, I think Patrick said, go door to door and literally have an hour conversation with everybody involved. That's a little cumbersome for us also. But
Yeah, I guess just to add on to that, having a referendum on the engineering of the project at this point is difficult because we haven't noticed that we're talking about this to the whole neighborhood, so we don't know
The other side.
the other side, if there's people that have an opinion contrary to Mr. Merrill's and some of the folks that emailed. We know of at least a couple that have a different opinion on that. So it's difficult to make a decision at this point because we don't know if this represents the views of everyone in the neighborhood at this point. And as far as communication, there's a lot of engineering going on, and this isn't viewed as a large element of the project. I think moving forward, maybe we do more engagement around some of these elements. But at the time, we didn't view it as a very significant element, considering we did get comment that from some that it should be removed.
To follow up on Larry's point, there's a process. When I say turn the process, we're talking not just, follow a process blindly. There's a due process element here. Public hearings especially, that's what public hearings are designed for, to get input from all the citizens as to what should be done and how the project should be designed. And to tell people that, to imply that you can come back afterwards and redesign things without having the entire public aware of it bothers me. It really calls into question the whole due process procedures.
all right, on that, what's the pleasure of the board?
Well, I was thinking what Dale had to say about it, and you commented, Mr. Merrill, that it's kind of an eyesore. This becomes a maintenance issue for the township too, at a time when we really don't need to do this. I think we're far enough in this process. I'm not thinking we should change it.
Yeah, we can't, you gotta get to the mic. One last chance.
Yeah. One last thing is, in terms of just to the process, I spoke to Larry at the meetings and spoke publicly and mentioned this. Larry told me we will deal with the plantings later in the process. So that said to me, we are keeping those, we'll deal with that later. That's why I asked Sarah about it, and then in terms of, the maintenance, I bought into that neighborhood, it had an island in it. I realize it's probably more convenient for maintenance or whatever to just wipe it out, but that wasn't what I bought into. So, and I said all that in a letter. I wasn't going to repeat everything I'd already said, but.
Well, and plus to our,
So there was a process, just to speak to Chad, there was a process. We did go through the process. The public, I don't think, was probably adequately informed in a format that they would. If you say, come to a meeting and this is what you get, that's not a format that works. So,
This board, when we finalize these projects, we look over the whole plans.
yeah. And I was at the
So-
finalized when you voted.
So we're aware of what's going to happen in that development. If us three can look at a set of plans and realize that, we're hoping that when the plans are presented to the neighborhood, they'll also understand what's happening. Like I said, we can't hold your hand, but we also can only do so much to get that information out.
I don't think we saw a set of plans. You know, I mean, I think you guys might have had big packets, but that wasn't passed out to the folks at the audience. And, you know, and there was no note that, by the way, the islands are coming out. Again, I don't think anybody realized it. That's my rest of my case. I mean, I specifically asked about it. I specifically told we were going to wait till later. And so, I mean, it's in you guys' hands. I think, to me, it's clear what the neighborhood wants, so. And as far as terms of it's too late.
But as our attorney said, we're listening to one resident and not how many units?
Well, you've got 5 or 6 other emails, and the only other email you have is from Jeremy Laska, who's talked about eyesore. So that's all you've got, as far as I know.
I think the point was there was comments made before the plans were finalized about this, and decisions were made based on those comments.
And what were,
See, that's my concern.
but the comments were to keep it or to get rid of it, or
They
what?
were actually, there weren't many comments.
No, I think the comments were that it looked ugly. And to fix it.
Actually, they were mostly get rid of it. But then again, I wasn't involved directly on that, so don't hold me to that, okay?
Yeah, I think we're talking probably almost hearsay at that point, or very, very limited.
No, we have records of that. But the point I was making, and I understand your concern, I do. But to be fair to everyone, you have to say, this is the process. If you have a comment, please come at this time. After a while, the question is, are we going to wait? Is the person who is most persistent one that's going to win, even if they only represent a minority of the opinion? I mean, that it's concerning from a philosophical standpoint. I'm not wedded to process. I'm wedded to due process, and that's the important thing to me.
I understand.
And that's my concern here.
I get it. I mean, I guess it really comes, at this point, I'll sit down. Basically, you've heard my piece. You read the letter. It comes down to the judgment of the board in terms of what's the right thing to do in terms of all of those factors. So.
All right. Basically, you're looking for a motion to proceed with the original plan. Am I stating that right?
That's true.
That's correct.
That's the staff recommendation.
Yep. All right. Board comfortable with that?
Yes.
Is that your motion, Steve?
My motion is to proceed as planned. We followed our process.
All right. Do I have a second? I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'll go nay on that one.
right.
And
All right, motion carries. We're going to proceed as the plan specified. But we appreciate you guys' input. Like I said, I'm sorry if there was miscommunication or you guys just didn't feel informed. I have complete confidence in our engineers. And when they give presentations, I'm pleased with who we use for engineering. DKDA does an excellent job. All right, moving on. We have no added agenda items. Open time, there's still a chance for anybody to come up, give your name and address if you want to talk about anything.
Patrick. Yeah, Gary Zerwas, 2524 Street. I was here about a year ago. We talked about Republic Services. You remember that?
Was
Being
the
retired, we've always...
winter contracts, right?
Yes,
Yes, okay.
Well, I have assumed you guys made changes because it happened in March of 22, okay? And you didn't make any changes. It's called Title 31. Am I correct, Patrick?
I'm not, I have no idea.
We were at the meeting together with Republic, right?
Yep, I don't remember that
I
being
think
discussed.
Title 31 was done decades ago. But basically, we are the only township or city, probably in the state of Minnesota, that people like me that are retired and leave for the months, like right now it's 9 months, I go to Texas, I'm being forced to pay. Right now, I'm up to $478 since 22 to pay for garbage that not even one solo cup is picked up. Everybody else gets a freebie. Because Title 31 was written decades ago. What happened is Republic realized they were breaking the contract and they didn't want to lose the business here. So they abide by the contract, which is at Title 31. Please change that, because I see a lot of gray hair here. So you guys are gonna retire soon also. So when you leave to go to Florida, Arizona, whatever, you're gonna be paying for garbage even though you're not here. And that's not right. Like I said, I'm up to 478 right now, and I'm leaving in less than 2 weeks for 9 more months.
Here is Title 31, is that part of
I think it's
Republic's
ordinance, I
contract?
think it means ordinance 31.
Ordinance 31.
I mean, ordinance 31, yeah.
Oh,
I know
there
what
we
you-
go.
I know
Sorry.
what you're driving, I know what you're driving at, yeah.
All right, you had me.
Maybe reword it so that they don't lose their contract? If you can reword Title 30 or
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
Ordinance 31.
Yep.
Or, I don't know, just adjust it like White Bear is, or North St. Paul, or Maplewood, or anybody else in the state of Minnesota. Because we're the only ones paying for it when I leave. And I can throw a rock. I live right in the corner of Portland. I can throw a rock over the city of White Bear. If I lived there, I wouldn't be paying this. Something's not right.
Patrick, didn't the utility commission review this?
I think so. We talked about it right there, Tom.
But it was a
We met
while
with
back.
Gary and
Yeah,
then,
you talked to
Yes, yes.
Bev, right?
Yes.
Okay. What came of that conversation?
Well, she got to be garbage can.
You're welcome.
I don't know if you guys know this or not. It's actually cheaper to use her garbage can now. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Because I've been using my garbage can forever. Because it used to be cheaper if you had your own.
Right.
But now they actually gave me one. It'll last forever because I'm only here for 3 months, you know. By the way, when I'm up here, I don't pay for garbage in Texas. Why would I? I'm not using it. I'm using it up here. And just vice versa. When I'm gone for 9 months, I'm not creating any waste. As a matter of fact, when I put in my waste tomorrow, this is my wife and I, 1 bag is gonna go in that thing. 1 bag. That's almost every week. Matter of fact, last week when they had recycling, I didn't take it down because it was this full. So I'm really getting ripped, so to speak.
I would
But
not.
the reason why we do go, my wife is disabled. She was diagnosed with MS 23 years ago. She can't take the cold. That's why we have to go. And we first started with maybe 2 months, then 3 months, then 5 months, now 9 months.
Are you a permanent resident of Texas then?
Yes, absolutely. And that's been for 8 years now.
From my perspective, and I'm
And I've lived in my house for 50 years, by the way. Same place for 50 years.
not the only thing, but one thing that needs to be looked at is, you know, you're gone. Yours makes some sense for the timing you're talking about, months.
Yep.
You're gone, but you know, I'm gone for 2 weeks. I don't want to pay my garbage. I'm gone for a month. I don't want to pay my garbage.
They won't even do it.
That's my point. If they're looking at it, they got to look at
Call
it.
them up and they ask me, okay, when are you coming back, Mr. Zerwas? And I tell them, call me when you get back.
But it's got to be straightened out in the contract. A phone call to Republic isn't where it's necessarily going to take.
Well, Republic kind of always dealt with it.
Well, they do, but they're operating under a contract that between Republic and the township that is negotiated every
2 years?
Yeah,
2 years?
It's being negotiated right now, right?
Yep, we're up for renewal, but we're going to be going out to RFP in 2 years.
So noted that it's an item that possibly could be changed, but it's got to be done by contract, not.
Well, then do what White Earth doing. Whatever they're.
Oh, no.
We don't want to be like, we want to be the township.
That's a better one.
Your point is made, I think, from my perspective.
I see a lot of gray hair. You guys are retired.
I would recommend to the board not to volunteer much here this evening until staff has a discussion with Bev as to where the discussion went with our resident here first.
Yeah.
But Gary's right. We are renewing contract extension for 2 years. And if there is to be any kind of adjustment specific to your request, that's where it needs to be.
I'm not the only one. There's a lot of seniors that leave.
Oh, we know.
I think I'm the one that
know.
complains a lot.
Yeah, but they leave for 9 months?
Maybe 3, 4.
Yeah.
Remember, it's a 2 month thing. You know, your bill is 50, mine is 57.88 for 2 months. Anyways, it doesn't seem right to me. I mean, I don't mind paying for things when I get something, but to pay for something that I'm not getting is just not right.
That's true, but you also got to remember, the contract through our garbage hauler also includes township cleanup days, which is about, what, $25,000?
At least, yep.
Well, there's an amenity there that they distribute.
That you're here for, by the way.
In all of our parks.
Yeah, so a lot of that cost is distributed across the whole township. So I know you're paying for a month that you're not getting, but you also are getting it through the rest of the township, whether you're here or not. So that is part of their,
In my situation with my wife and I, we're paying an awful lot for what they take. When I look at my neighbors, their garbage cans are over the top. Like tomorrow, there'll be one bag in there. Hardly at all, you know. But it is what it is, you know. Texas, what I like about Texas, the way they do it down there, you buy your garbage bags and you pay for what you use. So it's a usage tax, so to speak. You have a lot of garbage, you have a lot of bags, you pay a lot of money. I like that idea. Anyways, that's all I gotta say.
all right. Appreciate it, sir.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See you next year.
Promise?
We do too.
See you, Gary.
All right, anybody else for open time? Tom, you have a,
Well, I was just going to comment, Pat, 9 months is a unique situation, and it seems like we could look at something in a contract, such as we do for people who have their own businesses. We make an exception because they take their garbage to work. I don't know, it's maybe something we could look at that.
Do we want to alter the whole contract?
No, I just
For one
want to,
resident.
I want to, you know, I certainly understand.
I'll see if Bev
If
has
it was
any-
3 months.
Any experience or solutions for this?
Well, I think that's a very good place to go with that, is get some input, but my point that I was trying to make is you can't, today it's 9 months, tomorrow it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We can't operate that way. It's,
Yeah, but is there any-
Contracts aren't always perfect.
no.
They try to capture as much of.
so we know.
Yeah.
But
As
is
much
there
of
an
the.
exception for a non-resident whose permanent residence is in Texas? I don't know. We've never run across it before. It's something to discuss and maybe look at and see if it's come up before. Just curious.
All right,
But I like the system we have now.
any other comments, concerns? Hearing one, going once, going twice? All right, I need a motion to receive agenda material and supplements.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I need a motion to adjourn at 7:52.
Thank you, board.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
You have to check.